Hello everyone. In this session, let us discuss about strategic sourcing or outsourcing. So outsourcing is one of the drivers which we have discussed in our previous session while discussing the uh, supply chain performance measuring drivers. So actually, the decision of any company to perform its activity either internally or get these activities done from independent firm. This is known as make versus buy decision. This make versus buy issue is strategic in nature and involves some key decisions. What activities should be carried out by the company and what activities should be outsourced? How to select the partners or suppliers to carry out outsourced activities, and what should be the nature of the relationship with those suppliers. Should the relationship be transactional in nature, or should it be a long-term partnership? Okay, when Bharti Airtel, which is India's number one private telecom service provider, announced its decision to outsource the key network management activities, it sent shockwaves in Indian industry. In addition to outsourcing network management services, it decided to outsource IT services and call centers operations also. The bold decision by this Bharti Airtel generated huge debate not only among the telecom players but also among the Indian industries in general. One view is that by outsourcing these key activities, Bharti might lose its edge in the long run and to end up as a hollow company. While others' view is that by outsourcing these activities to more competent external firms, Bharti can focus its energies on designing innovative offerings and customer relationship and even brand building. So this is one of the important decisions to make, whether to go for strategic outsourcing or this in-housing. So make versus buy. Actually, it is one of the strategic approach. Make versus buy is actually strategic approach. And why do we need this strategic sourcing? Okay, so actually supply chain involves a number of companies and encompasses all the activities associated with the transformation of goods from the raw material stage to final stage, wherein the goods and services reach the end customer. While studying make versus buy decisions, we analyze from the point of view of focal firm or nodal firm, which is at a strategic center of supply chain. The firms that provides an identify to the product in terms of brand, for example Bharti or Hindustan Unilever or Nike. Of course, brand has higher stakes in the chain and has been identified as the main entity of the chain. Okay, the make versus buy decisions evaluates the contribution of each activity using the value chain framework developed by that person Michael Porter. We classify all the supply chain activities as primary activities and support activities. Primary activities consist of inbound logistics, operations, outbound logistics, sales and service, and secondary activities involve procurement, technology development, human resource management, and firm structure management. This make versus buy decision look at each of these activities critically and ask the question, should this activity be done internally or can it be outsourced to an external party? Once the decision to outsource has been taken, the firm has to choose among the competing suppliers and also decide on the nature of the relationship it would like to establish with the suppliers. Traditionally, if a company believed that everything should be done internally, unless there is a compelling logic in favor of outsourcing. There's all the outsourcing related decisions had been justified. So we have come a long way from days of a Ford Motor Company where vertical integration was the norm. Now perhaps we are on the other extreme with our discussions of virtual corporations, where a firm starts with the assumptions that all activities must be outsourced unless there is a compelling logic to justify keeping activities in house. Even Michael, Dell, the CEO of Dell Computers, actually has stated that if its company was vertically integrated, it would need 5 times as many employees and would suffer from a drag effect. Apart from this primary activities in the value chain, even support activities that were usually done in-house are outsourced in a big way now. Rather than taking extreme positions, we need to build up a managerial logic to understand these issues. Hence, we first look at few cases where firms have made these decisions in recent years, and then bring out conceptual framework that can help the uh, companies in their make versus buy decisions. Let us, before going to that, let me tell you why do we need strategic sourcing. By identifying and selecting the suppliers that will provide all the value at at right pricing will enable an organization to continuously achieve higher cost savings. This is one benefit. Then better alignment of sourcing and business objectives. Better alignment allows the business to achieve higher business performance with higher efficiency and minimal supply chain risks. Then optimization of ideal suppliers. An organization is equipped with information that will allow them to match their business objectives to their ideal suppliers. This implies highest value uh, creation at lowest possible cost. Long-term relationship building with suppliers. Actually, this strategic sourcing helps to create a synergy between organizations and its suppliers. Sustained relationship with suppliers also implies that when suppliers are valued and considered in various sourcing decisions, they feel motivated to optimize their performance to meet the organization you know, objectives. Outsourcing actually does not strictly mean only looking to purchase cheap products, but emphasizing on acquiring newly formed business partnerships. Actually, modern supply chains have evolved from simple linear connections between business and suppliers to an interconnected network spanning the continents, departments, and functions. The key to optimize the supply chain is effective supply chain management, and a great way to achieve such optimization is by outsourcing supply chain management to the right experts. And information technology and outsourcing initiative with the technology provider can involve a range of operations from the entirety of the IT functions to discrete, easily defined components such as disaster recovery, network services, software development, or quality assurance testing. Coming to outsourcing services, actually we have BPO, that is business process outsourcing, is an reaching term in for outsourcing of a specific business process tasks such as payroll. Okay, BPO is often divided into two categories: back office BPO, which includes internal business functions such as billing or purchasing, and front office BPO, which includes customer related services such as marketing or tech support. In today's cloud-enabled world, however, IT outsourcing can also include relationship with providers of software, infrastructure, platforms as a service. In fact, cloud services account for as much as one third of outsourcing market, a share that is destined to grow. These services are increasingly offered not only by traditional outsourcing providers but by global and niche, software vendors or even industrial companies offering technology-enabled services. So we have outsourcing examples. Nike is one example, and Dell, Toyota, Maruti Suzuki, Honda. So all they have only assembling. Okay, so Dell is holding only branding and strategy decisions, whereas Nike, holding only designing and branding. Similarly, Voltas have only branding, and LIC and National Insurance they have only sales of policies. What are the benefits of this outsourcing and how it affects the cost? So the business, the lower cost actually due to economies of scale, or lower labor rates, and increased efficiency. Efficiency will be very high. Then variable capacity, then increased focus on strategy and core competencies because you are completely outsourcing most of the activities. As a result, the main the core company can concentrate on the competencies, and they can focus on marketing strategies or something like even brand building also. Access to skills or resources. They can get the skill sets because you will be having association with the different suppliers. You are integrated with many vendors. As a result, you can access a lot of skills and resources also. Increase the flexibility to meet changing business and commercial conditions, and accelerated time to market, lower ongoing investment in internal infrastructure. So investment will be low. Internal infrastructure can be, investment on this infrastructure can be reduced because most of the activities will be outsourced. So infrastructure requirement may be less. Access to innovation, intellectual property, and thought leadership. So here access to innovation. So as your so your partners or your suppliers may do some innovative products. As a result of that, you can also get the opportunity to these particular innovations, intellectual properties, and through thought leadership, and access possible cash influx resulting from a transfer of assets to new provider. There are some risks for outsourcing, which includes slower turnover around time, because everything you cannot take decisions. Sometimes you are taking decisions of your partners or suppliers or people whom you have given outsourced for manufacturing or services. So in that case it takes time. Okay, so time taken will be more, so slower turnaround time. Lack of business or domain knowledge, language and cultural barriers, time zone differences, lack of control. Okay, so these are the few disadvantages as far as outsourcing is concerned. Outsourcing, let us see, hidden costs. The total amount of outsourcing contracts does not accurately represent the amount of money and other resources a company will spend when it sends IT services out to a third party, depending on what is outsourced and to whom this is outsourced. Studies shows that the organization will end up spending at least 10% of above that figure to set up the deal and manage it over the long haul. Among the most significant additional expenses associated with outsourcing are the cost of benchmarking and analysis to determine whether outsourcing is the right choice. See, analysis itself costs you a lot. Okay, the cost of investing and selecting a vendor, selection of the vendor, that costs you. The process that is involved in order to select the right vendor, right supplier, or right partner for your company. The cost of transitioning work and the knowledge to the outsourcer, cost resulting from possible layoffs and their associated HR issues, cost of ongoing staffing and management of outsourcing relationship. You have to recruit the people. Okay, in that case, ongoing staffing and management of outsourcing relationship will also cost you. So this is make versus buy. So even when make versus buy decisions are very prominent in company. As you know, this is going to decide the cost incurred on your production or services being offered by the company. So so the decisions of a firm to perform its activities internally or get these activities done from independent firm is known as make versus buy. That's already we have discussed above. And so let us identify the core processes. Okay, so let us see how to identify the core processes, because before you give something out, for outsourcing, you must know which particular activities to be outsourced. So how to identify that? Okay, so the decision to identify selected process as core process and focus in improving those can have significant impact on performance of the firm. So it is a very crucial decision because it's a short-term gain versus long-term, sustainability. Okay, so this mere decision to focus the resources on core activities to match capabilities with the best in the class performance is not enough. Firms must strive to be the best in the world that in that specific area. So thus the first step for a firm is to develop the capability to distinguish between core activities and commodity activities. So we should know how to distinguish these two activities, core activities and commodity activities. For example, Toyota strength is assembly line, so they can do it in-house. Like that, HCL strength is logistics and managing supply chain, so they can concentrate on these two things. So there is one statement made by a company CEO. It is a Michael Marks, CEO and chairman of Flextronics. Okay, so Flextronics, without Flextronics, there would be no Xbox. Only the idea of it. Microsoft has ton of money, but if they had to build factories, they won't have done this project. If guys like us didn't exist, guys like Microsoft could not do a hardware product. The risk would be too high. So once upon a time, what happened? The Microsoft was dealing with all these different types of devices. They are manufacturing devices, especially electronics devices. Later they have realized that it is not easy for them to do all these electronics related device manufacturing. That's why, especially when it was launching Xbox project, they have given they have outsourced all these electronics related device manufacturing to this Flextronics, one of the leading electronic device manufacturer. So late this the statement came out after the electronics realized that without their presence, without their support, it would have not been possible for the Microsoft to get the money or profit out of this particular Xbox business. Okay, so this is, and hence they have decided to depend on their outsourced partners for the IT support required for the business applications. Thus, the first step for a firm is to develop the capability to distinguish between core activities and commodity activities. Even among the core activities, it has to keep certain activities in-house, and for outsourced critical activities, it has to maintain some knowledge so that it can manage an effective relationship with its outsourcing partner. The two ways to which one can identify the firm's core process are, the one is the business process route, and second one is the product architecture route. So the business process route for any firm, uh, three core and high level business processes include customer relationship, product innovation, and supply chain management. Customer relationship focus on acquiring new customers and building relationship with existing customers, whereas product innovation focuses on developing new products and services, whereas supply chain management focuses on the fulfillment of customer orders. It is possible to unbundle the three business processes, and a firm can afford to outsource two of these business processes. Some researchers have even having the argument that a firm must identify and ensure that it builds core capabilities in-house in at least one of these areas. Firms like HP and high-end pharmaceutical firms focus on product innovations, especially firms like Nike and they have Benetton focus on brand building and customer relationship, whereas firms like Walmart and Dell, and they focus on supply chain management capabilities. Of course, within the identified core business process, firms can examine each of these activities and probably outsource those activities that are of commodity type. For example, within supply chain management, firms might outsource the warehousing or transportation functions. In case of Microsoft, it decided that the customer relationship management and software design are its core processes, while design and manufacturing is not core to its business. Bharti Bharti Airtel decided that the customer relationship was the core and network management was not. Core processes retained within the company must be strategic from the business point of view, and firms must realize that value within the chain and gets distributed to the chain partners on the basis of unique capabilities that they bring to the table. A firm has to ensure that it has a relatively higher bargaining power within the chain. A firm has to make sure that in-house business process give it enough strategic power in the chain and do not allow other chain partners to dictate the terms of value exchange in the chain. In the PC business, the power within the chain went to Intel and Microsoft. So even though IBM was at the strategic point in product development, it lost its power and became a peripheral player in the chain. Then coming to product architecture route. In the product architecture approach, the focus is on subsystem and components, and make or buy decisions are made at that particular level. A product like a car can be divided into subsystems such as engine, chassis, and transmission. The engine subsystem can be divided into components such as power cylinder, fuel system, and engine electronics. In a product, first subsystems are classified as strategic and non-strategic. A subsystem is strategic in case of supplier having a lot of technological, huge technological advancement, which would be impossible to bridge in foreseeable future, or if the time and the investment required for catching up may not be worth the effort, then the component should be outsourced, and suppliers should be treated as a strategic partner. Of course, if A firm finds that for all the components, the supplier has a lead and it has no hope for catching up in the near future. Then we see the market and we have one more way of looking at make versus buy, that is make versus sorry, market versus hierarchy. This the make versus buy decision is also known as market versus hierarchy decision in economics literature. The key issue here is to coordinate the chain so as to provide a bundle of goods and service at the lowest cost for a given level of service required by the customer. In the hierarchical form, a firm has greater control over coordination, but there may not be enough motivation for the internal supplier to work on innovations to reduce the cost and improve service over a period of time. When a firm uses market mechanism to procure the necessary inputs, it may be able to take the advantage of economies of scale and also choose the supplier that supplies goods and services at lower prices. In this case, the supplier has enough motivation to innovate, and the firm as a buyer has the flexibility of changing the supplier, which is not an option available to the firm that chooses to make inputs internally. So there are many factors influences make or buy decisions. Volume of production. If the volume of production is very high, it favors the make decision, and the low volume favors buy decision. Cost analysis, like break-even analysis, that also sometimes decides whether to go for make or buy. Then utilization of production capacity. The organization which has created large production capacity favors the decision to the make. And then integration of production system. The vertical integration favors the make decisions, whereas horizontal integration favors buy decision. Vertical integration means all the activities to be carried out by the company internally, whereas horizontal integration where the company will be manufacturing or producing the goods and services by collaborations with the others. Availability of manpower. Availability of skilled and competent manpower favors make decision, whereas scarcity manpower prefers buy decision. Then secrecy or protection of patent right. This condition favors make decision, because if you want to keep all the things confidential, then it is not possible for you to take the collaboration of partners or suppliers. So in that case, you have to have make decisions for the company. Fixed cost. A lower fixed cost favors the decision to make, and higher fixed cost to make higher fixed cost to cost the make decision. Uh, Availability of competent suppliers or vendors, and quality and reliability of vendors. So all these factors decides make or buy decision. Then we have a clear-cut classification of make versus buy here. So cost with respect to cost of making products in-house and cost of buying products outsourcing. So what are the costs can be listed under in-house or make. So that is production cost, extra labor cost, monitoring cost, storage requirement cost, and waste product disposal cost. So these are the costs which comes under in-house activity. And when it comes to outsourcing, product purchase price, sales tax charge, shipping charge, inventory holding cost, ordering costs, so all these will be to be taken care. Then let us understand this economies of scale. Economies of scale is a cost advantage reaped by the companies when production becomes efficient. Companies can achieve economies of scale by increasing the production and lowering the cost. So here economies of scales can be achieved by increasing the number of quantity or volume. Okay, thereby we can reduce the cost on production. For example, Walmart's everyday low prices are due to its huge buying power. Even Amazon's Festival of Festivals also improves the economies of scale. Firms that specialize in production input can usually achieve higher economies of scale versus a vertically integrated firm. A vertically integrated firms produce only for its internal needs, while external supplier firm can aggregate demands of many potential buyers and thereby enjoy huge economies of scale. There are four major sources of economies of scale. One is a higher volume allows a firm to spread its fixed cost over a large volume of operations, and then higher volume allows a firm to choose more efficient technologies. Pooling of buffer capabilities and inventories, and then learning curve effect. So these are the few advantages as far as economies of scale is concerned. Then higher volume allows the firm spread its fixed cost over a large volume of operations. Uh, a firm with a higher volume is able to spread its fixed cost over a higher output and thus has a lower cost of operation. For example, a bus carrying passengers from one place to another, number of passengers make difference. The facility of labs for 60 or 120 intake remains the same in an engineering college. Similarly, in manufacturing firm, the running cost increases as the volume of production increases, while the fixed cost gets distributed over the number of units manufactured. It com IT companies preferring work from home option has reduced their costs. So these are all the costs due to high volume of production, which spreads over the fixed cost. High Higher volume allows a firm to choose more efficient technologies uh, that are capital investments, but results in lower fixed and variable costs per unit of output. A transport firm that can transport 40 tons per trip in a Volvo truck will have lower cost per ton of material compared to a transport firm that requires 4 trucks of 10 tons capacity each to transport the same volume of goods. Introduction of IT in warehousing and logistics against manual handling of goods. Example, foundries in China for building Statue of Unity. So all these are the few examples where high volume allows a firm to choose more efficient technologies. Pooling of buffer capacities and inventories. If a firm keep their activities in-house, they have to keep buffer capacities and inventories to take care of the uncertainties in demand. A supplier, on the other hand, is able to pool uncertainties over a large number of customers and as a result needs much lower levels of buffer capacity and safety inventory. For example, a logistics firm that transports Maruti cars from Gurgaon to Bangalore carries Kurlon's mattresses to their Delhi warehouse on the return trip. So consequently, it is able to offer lower transport costs to Maruti as well as to Kurlon. Another example is Roro range service, where vehicles, transportations can, all the trucks can be transported through rail service. Then learning curve effect. The learning curve capture the impact of cumulative production on average cost of production. Experience makes production faster and cheaper. In several industries, it is found that with a doubling of cumulative production, the average cost declines by 10 to 20%. Next comes agency cost. How does one ensure that the interest of IT department and that of marketing departments are aligned? How does one make sure that the IT department is putting its best effort and is not slackening? This issue is known as agency problem in economics literature. The IT department is known as the agent that the market department as the principal. A firm which is with its own fleet of trucks faces a similar problem of motivating the transport department. In a hierarchical firm, there is a greater control over coordination, but there may not be enough motivation but internal supply to work on innovations to reduce cost and improve service over a period of time. The cost involved in control and coordination of internal supply is termed as agency cost in economics. Similarly, we have transaction costs involved in using market mechanism, which can be avoided if those relevant activities are brought inside the firm. These costs are known as transaction costs. Uh, Search and information costs, bargaining and contracting costs, policing and enforcement costs, cost incurred because of no loss of control. All these amounts to transaction costs. Incomplete contracts. It is possible and necessary to write complete contract that stipulates each party's responsibilities and rights for each and every contingency that could conceivably arise during the transaction. Unfortunately, in practice, it is impossible to write a complete contract. The reason why the contracts are not complete, and they are bounded rationally. Managers have a limited capacity to process information through all the possible scenarios related to regulatory change, technology, and market conditions. Difficulties in specifying or measuring performance. Even if managers are willing to seek and process comprehensive sets of information, it will still not be possible to write a complete contract if one cannot specify and measure the performance. Even if the quality requirements are specified in the contract, certain aspects of quality cannot be measured easily. Example, companies hiring graduates cannot measure the performance. Asymmetry of information. There may be asymmetry of information at the time of writing of the contract. For example, certain information about future changes either in technology or the supply market. The inability to write the complete contracts results in a significant increase in the cost of transacting business through the market exchange and include the situations like presence of relationship specific assets and poor coordination affecting supply chain performance, leakage of strategic information resulting in adverse supply chain performance. Presence of relationship specific assets. A relationship specific asset is an investment made to support a given transaction. In several situations, a firm will be able to improve the efficiency of transactions and reduce the cost in process if the supplier can invest in specialized assets. Example, Toyota has 129 companies under its umbrella. Poor coordination affecting supply chain performance in several supply chain situations. Coordinating decision between both parties is essential for overall performance. For example, Coke and Pepsi have realized that they need to coordinate retailing activities traditionally handled by local bottles. So they have decided to take greater control over bottling plants, and in some markets they have decided to even own bottling plants. Leakage strategic information and resulting in adverse supply chain performance. If one is buying from a firm that is also supplying similar inputs to competitors, a lot of strategic and sensitive information is likely to get leaked to the competitors. All these issues contribute to transaction costs of market exchange. If the transaction costs are substantially high, the firm is better off by bringing the activity in-house. So this is the way how market versus hierarchy decisions can be made based on transaction cost, agency cost, and other factors. A company manager can take proper decisions. So integrative framework of market versus hierarchy. To resolve the make versus buy issue, a firm has to look at the benefits as well as the costs involved. Cost should not be viewed from a narrow perspective. Instead, the costs and risks associated with the loss of control should also be captured in the transaction costs involved in market exchange. So in this figure, you can see there are three attributes for the costs maybe additional cost due to lower economies of scale in the internal supply, and agency cost of internal control and coordination. These two costs are attributed by different situations. Given the scale of internal operations, how important are the differential economies of scale between internal operators and compared to the suppliers. So extent of control and coordination in problem making part in house, so all that also contributes some cost. And presence of relationship, specific assets, extent of coordination problem, and possibility of leakage of strategic information, that also costs. So altogether, these two costs, when added together, if the total is less than the transaction cost of market exchange, then the company can go for make, or else the company can go for buy decisions. Thank you.